Edward Grant, a self-made millionaire with silver at his temples, steps back from the safe, watching it like a fisherman setting bait. Today wasn't about money. It was about trust. Grace, his maid, a woman who had worked in his mansion for nearly a year, was about to walk in. Edward wanted to know if loyalty still existed in a world where trust had become a rare luxury. What he didn't know was that this simple test would end up testing him. Edward had spent his life surrounded by wealth, and sadly, by people who wanted a piece of it. Old friends who'd turned into strangers, business partners who'd once sworn loyalty, only to betray him when the stakes were high. When Grace first came to work for him, she was different. Always early, never idle, always speaking with a soft respect that felt old-fashioned. But Edward's mind carried scars, and scars tend to itch when you least expect it. What if she's like the rest? He wondered. The idea came to him on a Tuesday morning. His office safe contained more than $1 million in cash and jewelry, more than enough temptation to test anyone's moral compass. So he left it wide open, not just cracked, but pulled so far that the golden reflection spilled onto the carpet. He adjusted the hidden security camera in the corner, angled perfectly toward the safe. If Grace saw it, if she took anything, he would know. And if she didn't, well, that would be the real surprise. The front door creaked open at exactly 8 a.m. Grace stepped inside, wearing her usual modest blouse, apron tied neatly, hair pulled back. She carried the faint scent of lavender soap. Her cleaning cart rattled slightly as she pushed it down the polished hallway. She greeted the cook in the kitchen, patted the golden retriever on the head, and began her usual routine, dusting the piano, straightening the curtains, checking the crystal vases for smudges. She hummed a soft gospel tune, a habit Edward had noticed but never mentioned. When Grace entered the office, the humming stopped. Her eyes landed on the safe. She froze. The stacks of $100 bills seemed almost unreal, as if a movie set had been dropped in the middle of her workday. The diamonds sparkled like frozen stars. For a long moment, she stood there. Edward, watching from his phone screen in a nearby cafe, leaned closer. This was the moment. Would she step closer? Would her fingers twitch toward temptation? She did step closer, but not for the reason Edward expected. Grace knelt before the safe. Her hands touched the cold steel, not the money. She gently pushed the heavy door closed, wincing slightly as it resisted. She spun the lock once, twice, 3 times. Then she pulled a small notepad from her apron pocket and began to write. Her handwriting was slow and careful. "Sir, I noticed the safe was open. I locked it for you. Please be more careful. The world has many eyes." She placed the note neatly on Edward's desk, aligned the pen beside it, and left the office without looking back. That evening, Edward returned home and poured himself a drink before heading to his study. He pressed play on the security footage. There she was, walking past a fortune without so much as a glance of greed. There she was, locking away what most people would have grabbed without hesitation. There she was, leaving him a warning, not taking a prize. Edward leaned back in his chair, the ice in his glass melting untouched. For years, he had believed trust was extinct, but here was proof, walking through his own home, wearing an apron and humming gospel songs. The next morning, Edward called Grace into his office. She entered with the same calm expression she always wore. "Grace," he began, holding up the note, "I saw what you did yesterday." Her brow furrowed. "Sir?" "The safe, the money. You could have taken anything." Grace shook her head. "Sir, my mother taught me, if it's not yours, it's not yours, whether it's a penny or a palace." Edward felt a lump rise in his throat. "Most people would have failed that test," he admitted. Grace's eyes softened. "Then most people have forgotten what matters. Trust is worth more than gold, sir. Once you lose it, no amount of money can buy it back." The words struck him harder than he expected. He had spent decades protecting his fortune, but in the process, he had forgotten to protect his faith in people. Edward reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. Inside was a deed, the deed to a small house Grace had once mentioned in passing, a place she dreamed of one day owning. Her hands trembled as she read it. Tears filled her eyes. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "You already said it," Edward replied, smiling gently, "when you walked past that safe." From that day forward, Grace no longer worked for Edward. She worked with him. She oversaw the household, handled personal affairs, and traveled with him on business trips. And Edward, for the first time in decades, felt the warmth of knowing someone stood beside him who wasn't counting what they could take, but cherishing what they could give. Lesson: wealth may fill your pockets, but trust fills your heart. And sometimes, the richest person in the room isn't the one with the most money. It's the one with the cleanest conscience.